This is One on One, an interview series with PlainsWalkers Burno. Enjoy the show. Today's guest, SorchaAzura.
So today we have Sorcha The Sophisticated, a PlainsWalker, a valued member here on our servers. She is a great builder and part of the Builders Syndicate. Everyone, please welcome Sorcha The Sophisticated.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and begin the interview. So we know that you love Valheim. Are there any other games that you enjoy or you feel anyone else should pay attention to?
Well, I enjoy a lot of different games. I've gotten more into the indie game scene recently, which is where Valheim came into the mix. Like before I lost my job, I was wasting money on AAA games, and I was having a lot less fun. Just join the indie game scene. Everybody needs to join the indie game scene.
I honestly feel like most AAA titles are starting to take notice of the indie game scene, because it feels like that's where all the creative play is coming from, and the new ideas, where the AAA titles are just regurgitating old ideas over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're looking for unique gameplay, like Power Wash Simulator, no AAA would have ever touched that, but it's such a good game. I mean, who would have thought? Power Wash.
I remember being on, I think it was on Twitter, and I saw a video that they posted where it was like, "Are you excited?" or something, and they like power washed it into the floor. And I was just like, and I looked at the comments, and there are actually a lot of people pretty excited about that game.
Yeah.
Who would have thought power washing?
Right. It's just so satisfying. And there's a bunch of other things like House Flipper. That's not a AAA game. That's an indie game. Really good gameplay. Very unique. Oh God, what else was I thinking? Oh, I don't think it's a AAA, but Stray.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh my God, it's such a good game.
Stray actually got a lot of, didn't it get a lot of awards?
Yeah, it did.
So, what brought you specifically to Valheim?
A friend of mine, a real-life friend who started streaming at the beginning of the pandemic, he was streaming it with his family and a few other friends. And, I'd seen it on Twitch before, but I hadn't really like paid attention to it. But when I saw him play, I'm like, hey, that looks like fun.
So basically, it was just watching someone else play, and it caught your eye, and you were like, "What is that?"
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I'm loving Twitch for that. There's been so many games that I've gotten onto just because I was browsing around, looking through my favorite creators, and they're playing this weird ass game. I'm like, hey, yeah, I want to play that.
Yeah, like you were mentioning again about indie games, like you're on Twitch and you notice this game. Usually indie games have a specific style to them, whether they're roguelike or whatever they happen to be, but when you see them, they usually look different than a AAA title, and you could usually tell by looking at a game that it's an indie game.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're more creative with their art styles.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and on that note, though, I haven't actually played it yet, but I want to. There is one game that I absolutely want to play. It is called Mundaun. It's a foreign language game, but it was made by one creator, and this guy, it's an indie horror game, but this guy hand drew every single frame of this game and uploaded it into it. It is such a unique art style and it's beautiful.
And of course, we will include links to the below if we need to, if we have any other games that we want to list down there.
Oh, excellent.
So speaking of creative and artistic direction, was there anything outside of Valheim that you pull inspiration from when you're doing building? Do you, like with me, like sometimes I'll be just driving around town and I'll look at a building and be like, that may look interesting in Valheim, and I pull inspirations from like outside things.
Yeah, I mean, there's not any one thing that I can point to, but I've always been very interested in history. I'm pretty much born into a historical reenactment group, so I've always really been fascinated with building, clothing, art, sciences, all of that throughout history and the development of that. And there's so much to draw on, so much.
Is there anything specifically about building in Valheim that you enjoy most?
I really love how granular it can get. Like if I'm playing, like I enjoy playing Fallout 4, but there's, you have your roof tiles and your wall tiles, and everything's like snaps into place in very specific ways, and you can't alter it. You can't clip through and do weird shapes and everything like that. Just there's so much you can do with Valheim. You can build the most outrageous, beautiful, nonsensical things, and it's so fun.
Speaking of fun things, do you have a favorite build? It doesn't have to be your own. It could be from a different builder or content creator.
Yeah, actually, I do have a favorite build. It's actually one of Mythic's. It's his Guts build. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. It is so beautiful. I forget the name of the creator, but they did a pirate ship out like right on the edge of the world. They did a pirate ship kind of stuck into a cliff, and it was great. They had like a kraken coming around, and the sails were beautiful. I gotta find that video.
We will find that, and we will put that information below in the description. So the next question, I like to kind of toss things up. I don't always like to keep the interviews exactly the same for each person. So this next question, I kind of feel it's gonna make the interview a little bit more interesting. So, when it comes to social media, especially Reddit, Facebook, I've noticed, and a lot of others have noticed, that there's a lot of purists when it comes to vanilla building and modded building. First of all, which do you prefer? Some builders prefer just to build vanilla, and they don't like to touch modded pieces, and some builders like to have the options.
I really like both. Most of my building is done vanilla, just because it's easier to... I do love having the option of the mods, particularly Gizmo. Gizmo is... Oh, it's so good.
Would you say that's your favorite mod?
Yes, absolutely.
I believe Mythic
other than
also
Farm Grid, but that's not a building mod. That's just a quality of life mod.
Right. Do you have any aspirations for your channel or for your building or your build style? Do you have? Do you look forward and be like, and you look at other builds and you're like, eventually I want to be at that level, or do you feel like you just focus on what you're doing at that point, like just present moment type thing?
Yeah, I mostly do it in the moment. At the moment, my aspiration for the channel is just to actually, post videos. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of things that excite me and that I really, really want to do. I think more aspirational would be upgrading my computer so that I can build bigger things without just melting my CPU while I try to record.
I feel you there, because I actually just had to upgrade my computer because the group is now playing Sons of the Forest. And I looked at the minimum specs and I was like, oh my god, my computer would blow up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel you there. So we're going to get a little bit more personal with you specifically in your builds. So I know I've told you this many times and I kind of sound like a broken record, but I went through your channel again and I watched quite a few of your videos, and I once again found myself going back to the Tiny Home series that you have. And it's weird because it seems popular more with the outside community for the builds to be huge and like giant castles and epic towers, It's never about the smaller, cozier builds. Is there something about the smaller builds that you feel are better versus having such a huge build? Is there a reason to having a smaller house and having a smaller footprint?
The tiny home thing just kind of came out as like a personal challenge, and then I just found that I really, really enjoyed it. And it kind of really is about the challenge, like how much can I fit into this ridiculously small space and have it be cute,
I understand. So basically it's how much functionality can you have with the house while simultaneously it still looks good.
Yeah, exactly. And also, just for the channel, the tiny home builds are more useful because they don't take as long to plan and to obviously film and build. Like my giant meat hall one was, I don't even know how many hours I spent on that, but it was a lot. And filming it was such a beast. Oh my god, it was such a beast.
I completely understand. Your tiny homes would be perfect for public housing on Kattegat, in my opinion. But that is a discussion for another day. So
we can talk about that.
Yep. You really like decorating, and that's something that I really like about your builds, is that sometimes people feel once the physical outside of the building is complete, that really the job is done, and that the inside decorating is more of like the back end, like on the they don't put as much importance into decorating, and you do. Is there a process that you normally go through when you're decorating that allows you to pay attention to everything on the inside? How do you get a picture of how you go through an interior decorating process?
It's literally like, would I want to live in this space? I approach it like an actual interior decorator would. Is this functional for me? Is it pretty? How would I actually function in this space if this were real, if I lived here in reality, basically?
Gotcha. So you're once again going back to that relevant real world experience, and you're like, well, if I put this in here, does it really have a relevance to, can it be used in this room, or is it just there to look pretty?
Exactly. And sometimes things are just there to look pretty. Like, I don't have to have art on my walls, but I do because I like it.
Why Vikings, when they ran through the world and pillaged, and I'm sure they took pieces of artwork and things that looked fancy to them, because in their world they didn't really have, they did have art and stuff like that, but they didn't have like Western style art, like sculptures and pretty paintings and stuff like that. So to have those types of things in your house on Kattegat or on Asgard or in Valheim, why be a bland Viking when we have those options?
Yeah.
So like we were talking about at the beginning, you were really active on Kattegat, and you contributed a lot to specific events like Dagger's Downfall, and you built the central NPC marketplace as well on Kattegat. But my favorite build on Kattegat is at the first mentioned one, Dagger's Downfall, the Abandoned Inn. And I love that one specifically because it fit a theme of being abandoned and run down. Was there any inspiration for that? Did you go and look at Google old abandoned inns on Google and look from there, or did you just pull that out strictly from memory?
Actually, Mythic sent me like a bunch of reference images, and I kind of picked and chose what I liked about a few of them. And there was one in particular that I really loved the shape of, and I mostly went off of that.
Gotcha. That one really plays a centerpiece in Dagger's Downfall. In fact, I believe we're going to end up adding another NPC in there when we do the 1.0 run here after the Dark Tower is complete.
Excellent.
So it's still going to evolve, and I'm going to be there, and I'm there for it. So, final question for the interview, and then we'll wrap things up here. I kind of like to ask, where did you get the name SorchaAzura? Did you come up with that from something?
Sorcha is a name I've had for decades. I mentioned I was kind of born into a medieval reenactment thing, and obviously you have a persona in those things, and I was looking for a Scottish one. And I'm also a fan of the movie Willow, so I was familiar with the name Sorcha from that, and when I found out that was in fact a legit Scottish name, I was like, mine?
Yank. That's mine.
That is mine, yes. And I've been Sorcha for so long that I actually answer to it more readily than I do my real name.
Maybe a legal name change in the future?
Probably not, just because it's a hassle. But,
right.
People who know me know I answer to Sorcha. Azura came about pretty much when I started my YouTube channel. I'm like, I need to find another bit to distinguish myself, because there's a lot of Sorchas on YouTube. And I kind of pulled that from the Elder Scrolls world. Azura is one of the They're the goddesses, sort of. And it
Gotcha.
kind of rolled off the tongue. I like it. It works.
I see. So basically, you really love Sorcha, but there were already 1,000 Sorchas, and you needed something to differentiate yourself from the rest of them.
Exactly.
And I'm assuming you like Japanese-style anime and stuff like that, because Azura is really big from that scene as well.
I haven't been as much into anime as I used to be, but yes, I do enjoy it.
Well, thank you for sitting down. I hope, unless you have a sit-stand desk, for sitting down with me today and talking a little bit about you and Valheim and other things you enjoy.
Absolutely.
I believe we've answered all these questions thoroughly, and I hope that everyone who joins us today knows Sorcha a little bit better now. Is there anyone else you would like to give shout-outs to before we close the interview in the event?
Basically all of the Builders Guild, obviously Mythic in particular, because he is the GOAT. But yeah, Speed is great. Why are all of my names just escaping me? Anybody in the Builders Guild, they're all great.
Anybody outside the group that you want to give a shout out to?
Gaming with Kristi. She's just amazing. She's such a real personality in the gaming world. I love her.
She has a lot of really good Valheim tutorial videos. If you really want to know all there is to know about Valheim, just go through her channel and go through her videos. You will come out learning something new.
Yep.
Well, thank you again, Sorcha, and I hope that you have a good rest of your weekend and that we see you again soon on Kattegat.
Hopefully so. Thank you.
See you later.